everybody, welcome back to another one. We're going through Leviticus today, the whole way through. I'm on my way to work, so let's get it. Leviticus explains how sinful people can get into the presence of God. It's the simplest way to put it. God is holy, we know that, and God basically goes on this long, expressive way of being able to give the Israelites a way to get to God in his holiness, and he walks through basically three main things. He says, these are the rules, or these are the sacrifices, the things that I need you to give me. These are the people that are going to facilitate this, which would be the priest. And then you have the instruction to live in a holy manner. Do the thing, you go to the person, you live holy. He wants them to be set apart. That's literally what holy means, to be set apart, to be reserved, to be preserved, and to be pure, right? That is the essence of the entire book of Leviticus. God's giving his people his rules, his instructions, and his people to be able to get them closer to him. In chapter 1 through 7, we see God give them the sacrifices and the offerings that God would want them. We have the burnt offering, the grain offering, the peace offering, the sin offering, the trespass guilt offering, all these things. And basically, there's two ways to look at it. You either are giving something to God out of thankfulness, or you're giving something to God out of, I'm sorry, right? You're asking for forgiveness. And so it's one or the other. When we're seeing all these things happen, every sacrifice or every offering has its purpose, and they always come down to those two things. Thank you, or I'm sorry. In chapters 8 through 10, we see that God is basically appointing his priest and how he's expecting his priest and how they're supposed to act. He anoints and ordains Aaron and his sons. He explains how the priests are going to represent God. They explain how they are meant to maintain the highest standard of morality, the highest standard of purity and holiness. They are meant to be literally the embodiment or the images of God walking around. They're supposed to be people that the people of God can trust and confide in and go to be able to get them closer to God. In chapter 10, which is a really sad story, but something that's really unique, is that we see after they get ordained or after they get made holy, God doesn't just let us think, oh, now that these people are elected and are holy, these people are going to be perfect. They're going to be the tippity top of humanity. They're going to be able to walk around and never make any mistakes. That's completely wrong. We literally see Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, who basically go into the altar and just disrespect God. They literally blatantly just making a strange fire before God, and God destroys them for it because they go into it and they just don't treat it with the seriousness and the holiness that God is expecting of his people, and they die because of it. And so I think that at that moment we see Aaron's reaction, and it is very much like, holy crap, this is serious. Like, this is not meant to be a joke. This is not meant to be taken flippantly. Like, we are expected to adhere and uphold this standard just like everyone else. It doesn't matter if we had good intentions or not. We are being held to a higher standard because of that. In chapter 11 through 16, we see basically what people would call the purity laws, where God is essentially saying, hey, this is what makes a person clean or unclean. And God gets real specific, gets really detailed. He goes into a very, 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 intricate, like, hey, there's skin diseases, there's bodily discharges, there's monthly fluids, there's funguses, there's dead bodies, there's all these things that you are going to have to deal with, that I'm going to give you the instructions of how this is going to work. Now, he's not saying that, being unclean is meaning that you're sinful. He's saying that being unclean is often a temporary thing. You're just in a place where your uncleanness just won't let you come to the presence of God, because you're supposed to be, clean. You're supposed to be, someone that is not with impurity or fault. And that's important to remember, because later on we see that Christ makes us clean. Not only does he purify us, but he makes us clean. Those are two separate things, meaning that no matter what nonsense I might have on my body, his blood has made me clean, and it's through his atoning sacrifice that he has then made me pure. He has made me holy through the blood of Christ, right? So that's a really beautiful thing. The Day of Atonement, or the Day of Atonement, is a central theme in chapter 16. And basically we're given two goats, right? We're given the goat that is the scapegoat, and then we're given the goat that's supposed to be the one that is sacrificed for the sins of Israel. Now, the only thing I really want to emphasize here is that God says we send it over to Azazel. People that are hyper spiritual and hyper doom and gloom and want to focus on gods and things of that nature, don't focus on that. That is not important right now. We don't need to get into demonology and all these things. Just focus on what God is saying. When he says to send it to Azazel, he's literally sending it to the mountain Azazel that is literally behind Israel. He's sending them to the mountain, to the wilderness. Get this sin out of here. I don't want it here. I don't want you to think about it. I don't want you to reflect on it. I don't want you to remember this thing. Let it go. Chapter 17 through 27, we see that God is basically telling Israel, this is what, basically explaining the reason why. I need you to be holy. I need you to be pure. I need you to be set apart. I don't want you to be like these other nations doing the things that they're doing. I want you to be pure sexually. I want you to be pure in justice. I want you to be pure in care for the other people. I want you to love your neighbor. I want you to do all these things. And so don't forget that he says that in chapter 19:18. So remember this verse. Remember to love your neighbor as yourself. So the last thing that I want to notate is my God loves to party. The dude set up yearly festivals, 7 of them suckers. The Passover, the unleavened bread, the first fruits, the Pentecost, the trumpets, the atonement, the tabernacles. My God loves to party, and he loves to do all these things. And so this is him setting up all of the rules, all of the systems, all of the procedures, all of the things, just so that the people could enter into the dwelling place. And so it literally ends the story of Leviticus with basically Moses being able to now finally enter into the tent of God and being able to lead people to holiness, into closeness with him. And so that is what we have today. I'll see you guys on the next one.